Сайн байцгаана уу хүн үзэгчдээ. Өнөөдөр манай Defacto нэвтрүүлгийн зочноор Нүүбийн хүүхдийн сангийн Монгол дахь суурин төлөөлөгч, байгаль хамгаалах шинжлэх ухаанаар доктор цолтой ноён Alex Heikens оролцож байна.
Alex Heikens нэгдсэн үндэсний байгууллагын хүүхдийн сангийн Монгол дахь суурин төлөөлөгч. Alex Heikens Нидерландын Ультрихтийн их сургуулийг биологийн ухааны магистрийн зэрэгтээ төгссөн ба усны бохирдлын нөлөөлөл сэдвээр докторийн зэрэг хамгаалжээ. Тэрээр 2013 оноос нэгдсэн үндэсний байгууллагын хүүхдийн санд ажиллаж эхэлсэн бөгөөд Нью-Йорк дахь төв оффист уур амьсгалын өөрчлөлт, эрчим хүч болон байгаль орчны тогтвортой байдал хариуцсан ахлах зөвлөхөөр ажиллаж, энэ асуудлаарх байгууллагын бодлогыг тодорхойлон хэрэгжилтэйг удирдах байсан. Alex Heikens нь 2003-аас 2013 онд нэгдсэн үндэсний байгууллагын хөгжлийн хөтөлбөрийн Аз номхон далайн бүсийн оффист бодлогын зөвлөхөөр ажиллаж, тус бүс нутаг дахь нэгдсэн үндэсний байгууллагын хөгжлийн хөтөлбөрийн хэрэгжүүлэгч улс орон тэдгээрийн засгийн газарт уур амьсгалын өөрчлөлтийг даван туулах асуудлаар бодлогын дэмжлэг үзүүлж байсан. Тэрээр мөн Индонез дахь нэгдсэн үндэсний байгууллагын хөгжлийн хөтөлбөрийн уур амьсгалын өөрчлөлтийн хөтөлбөрийг удирдан чиглүүлж, ойн дороотлоос үүдэлтэй хүлэмжийн ялгарлыг бууруулах үндэсний хөтөлбөр зэрэг бодлогын чухал баримт бичгүүдийг боловсруулан гаргахад нь тус улсын засгийн газарт дэмжлэг үзүүлж байсан.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good to be here.
Pleased to have you on our program, UNICEF. I have been working, kind of making interview with all your predecessors, and it's such an interesting and important organization for Mongolia. It's working for many years. So what are your plan now? What is new things? Where you want to focus? And because you are a person who made a PhD in environmental science on contaminated water use, etc., and plus you have been working on air pollution, etc. Please tell us about your now plan.
Yes, thank you. Of course, UNICEF in Mongolia has been working for many years, as you say, on issues around water and sanitation, nutrition, health, education, and these things will continue for quite a long time. There is still so much that needs to be done. At the same time, there is one issue that we all really need to step up our game, and that is indeed, as you said, it's the environmental pollution. It's the air pollution problem is really has become a maternal and child health disaster, I would call it. This has been going on now for more than 10 years, and I think we still have not fully understood the consequences, the short, medium and long-term consequences of air pollution on the children, on pregnant women, but also on society as a whole. So we really need to step it up, and that's also the reason why I was appointed as the new representative for Mongolia, because of my environmental background, and also being really committed not just to talk about these issues sitting in headquarters as I was before, but really support my team and the country here to take meaningful action, to put it in the spotlight and to find solutions, both in terms of reducing pollution, reducing exposure to pollution, and strengthening health services, because children should not be dying from air pollution these winters.
You have we see the air pollution now. It is coming even worse after a month, or at night it's impossible to breathe in this city. Outside, in particular in Ged district, we see these, but you have mentioned we don't completely fully understand the consequences in long term with our children, with society, etc. What do you mean? What kind of consequences you particularly would like highlight?
I think there is the health aspect and the economic aspect to it. Now, starting with the health implications, also very recent evidence from WHO, a major report that they launched a few days ago globally, reiterates that air pollution exposure during pregnancy is affecting cognitive development, the brain development of the unborn child. Now, if your brain is affected, if it affects your learning capacity, if it affects your behavior, that means you're going to carry that with you for the rest of your life. Also, when your lungs are not properly developed and being damaged by air pollution, you will carry that with you for the rest of your life. So let's say a 5-year-old has been breathing polluted air for the last years, and when that child is 55 years old, the chances that that adult by then will have major problems with cardiovascular diseases, chronic health problems, lung issues, that is very, very likely. So the quality of life of the children today will also be even more problematic for them when they are adults. And then the question is about what are the economic implications of that?
Then remember we don't remember, but we know that 50s, London.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Do they have the same consequence that you are talking about?
Absolutely. That is also where we are learning from, that children who grew up in the 50s in London, now you see a very significant increase of health problems and health costs for that generation. And that is something I think that Mongolia needs to think about. Also here in 20, 30 years from now, you will most likely have a significant increase in health costs. Mm-hmm. So you need to start to figure out, how are you going to pay for it? Mm-hmm. And what is not fair here is that the children of today have not caused the pollution problems, mm-hmm. but they will get the bill. They already are suffering from it. And in 20, 30 years from now, as grown-ups, they will have a lot of health problems that they will have to pay for.
So we talk about 2050s or so.
Yeah.
These children mm-hmm. today, mm-hmm. maybe inside of their mother today, mm-hmm. Could have this sort of consequences faced, and they will pay themselves at the same time when they are not at fault at all. They are not the people who caused all these damages.
Yep.
So what should we do?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think first of all,
what can we at least do?
And there is always a challenge between what you can do and what you should do, and find something that is going to work. I think first of all, it's about understanding. It is not only about children with pneumonia today or other health problems that they have today, but we have to recognize that because half your country is living in this one city, this is a problem for the whole country. Because also, let's not forget, a number of the IMAG centers, they also have significant air pollution problems. So there are many more actually beyond Ulaanbaatar. So acknowledge the problem, start to analyze it deeper in terms of what are the likely health costs, and then look at financing options in terms of the health insurance system that you have, on how these issues can be addressed in the long term. And then meanwhile, of course, we have to make every possible effort to solve the pollution problems right now, reduce the exposure as much as we can. So for example, children in kindergartens, within the kindergarten, we should do whatever we can to improve the indoor air quality. In the hospital, the same thing. The first breath of air that a child takes should be safe for that very, very newborn child. And also pregnant women need to get the right information in terms of do whatever you can to reduce your exposure at home and on the street.
At least you have a mask. You must first. Secondly, you said an interesting thing. You said indoor air quality. Within the conditions, the most building, except very few, have no circular inside air conditioning system where you cannot open the windows, etc. It is built in that way, but 99% of the buildings are not built in that way. So how they would do opening or closing, what do you mean indoor air quality to increase in practical terms? Yeah,
in practical terms. Let me give an example of the UN house, our own office. Because we also had a lot of air pollution problems in the building ourselves.
Of course, everybody does.
Everybody. It does not matter whether you're rich or poor, but the difference is
whether
if you're well off.
Whether you're a minister or not, or prime minister or not.
Exactly. We should remember that. The difference, however, is, of course, that those who are well off have more means to invest in air purifiers, who can live, for example, outside of the city or send their pregnant wives to another country. during the winter. But in the buildings, at least in public buildings, what you can do is better seal the windows, improve the regulation of the heating system, and then you need indeed your ventilation points. You need to cover them with good filters so that pollution is not coming in, but you still get oxygen in. And then you need to have the good quality air purifiers to keep running to clean the air. And then also very importantly, it's about your behavior in your office, in your home. It's not just the technology. It's also your behavior as an individual, as a team, to make sure that yes, you do close the doors and you manage to maintain the ventilation system.
As much as you can.
As much as you can, and you need to be very conscious about it.
Because, see, our apartments are built in the way that you open the air if you need fresh air, but the window. Huh?
Yeah.
And the people by that habit, they open it and they instead got the smoke, everything, the smell of coal, half-burned coal. So is it like not to open the window in the evening and to keep fire inside? That's basically first things to do. Yeah.
Well, one of my colleagues, what she did, she also lives in an apartment building, and she herself put one of these window filters in front of the window, so she can still open the window. And she has an air quality monitoring device that has also shown last winter that with the filter in front of the window, the influx of polluted air was actually much lower. So a very low-tech solution.
Kind of special equipment, or how does whole window can be filtered?
I mean, it's just a small, it's a passive filter. It's kind of cloth material that you put in a frame, and you can screw it to the window frame. And with that, when the wind just blows through the fabric. It's just like in your car, you also have a filter in your car for the air circulation. So it's that type of filter that you install in front of your window, and some people have started to do it. So there are low-cost solutions.
Low-cost solutions.
But you're right, you also need to speak with the building manager. Now, what can we do? And a number of partners and government are doing that also in kindergartens. What can you do to retrofit the heating system so that you can tone down the temperature?
So everybody, who is living in Jargal district in the remote western and northern part of Ulaanbaatar, they are more exposed to that danger. In Ulaanbaatar city, everybody too. And that, speaking about the air pollutions, I understand we talk about not only that what we smell, but those particles that comes to the lung deeply, that even the lung cannot filter that. Is it? Tell us about that, please.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right that the real health problem is not caused by the things that you can see. It's caused by the particles that are so small, much smaller than your hair, much thinner than your hair, and you don't see them. It's like a bacteria or a virus. You don't see it, but it goes into your lung, and then it penetrates the lung tissue. It goes into the bloodstream, and then these dirty chemicals, they circulate throughout your whole body. They reach your brain, where they can cause you headache and disturb your brain activity. Then also they can penetrate the placenta, and then they can reach the unborn child. And then it affects the unborn child. So it's your whole body, including the unborn child, that is at risk from these very, very small particles that you can't see.
And from year to year in this particular city, the people's awareness of this problem is increasing. In some cases, maybe slow. And we have a lot of monitoring systems also all around the city installed already, which is not just only saying, but which is just, serening of what's happening in Mongolia, because it's 50 times or so higher than you expect. This system is there. Now we know it's dangerous. And then the government is trying every year certain projects, either they replace this whole stove or now chimney, or all this, the briquette they use, etc. But no substantial solutions. How do you see that?
Yeah, it's indeed what we see over the last 10 years. Despite many efforts and many investments, not enough progress. We need to be very honest with each other. There has not been enough progress. And I'm concerned it will still take quite a long time before we reach levels of air quality that one can regard as reasonably safe. Now, I think a couple of things that we really need to understand is that the energy question in Ulaanbaatar is a big challenge, because here heating is not a luxury, it's survival. So you have to heat, you have no option. And then moving towards sustainable and clean energy does take time, and it does take effort, and it does take continuous commitment. And that commitment needs to go beyond one government to the other government, because it will take, let's say, another 10 years. So no matter which political party you're part of, everybody does need to agree, we want clean air for our children. And that is what people have to come together around. And then also, I think the second thing which is really important, there is not one simple technical solution. You have to take that comprehensive approach, whereby you look at the source of the energy, you look at better insulation of the homes and the buildings, you look at behavior change, and you have to take that comprehensive approach, because there is no silver bullet for this problem, and we need to understand that and respect that, because otherwise we keep trying one technical solution, and again we are likely going to fail our people.
You said a comprehensive approach in all aspects. First, you said about the source of energy to be clean. Second, about the insulations, how do we preserve our heating. The third is about behavioral change. I remember a couple of years ago I visited, with your team, with UNICEF team also, some places in Hupsugulaimak.
Yeah.
Those areas where they have better insulation, they lost less heat. And it looks like that part also we have to pay attention in Mongol, in the Ger districts, to make a better insulations. Another thing is, because this structure of the Ger, you need to have to open the door on the top. Otherwise it will be very easily...
Yeah, you need to ventilate.
Yes, ventilate, without ventilation. Do you see any solutions, if there is anything in terms of insulation of Mongolian Gers better?
I think there are definitely options there. I think first of all, the Mongol Ger is a unique structure, and it has been serving its purpose for hundreds and hundreds of years. And it really shows that the Ger is very suitable under many conditions. We also need to recognize that we're now in the 21st century, and that there have been a lot of new developments around materials, around understanding insulation, and around design. So one of the things that we are in the middle of is a Ger Innovation Challenge, as we call it, whereby we are working with local partners, including Ger Hub, and with international partners, a number of outdoor companies and an architect firm and some universities, to have a fresh look at the Ger. And one of the things, for example, that the initial modeling showed us, that about 50% of the heat losses is through the floor. So what can you do in terms of, in an affordable way, to better insulate the floor? The other thing that they looked at is the door, because also a lot of heat loss through the door. And then the same with the top of the Ger. Indeed, what can you do there to still allow for ventilation but avoid unnecessary heat losses? So we've set up 6 Gers that are all slightly different. They're still very traditional, but we made some small adjustments. And at the moment, the team from the University of Pennsylvania is installing a whole number of sensors. And the coming months, we will be closely following the performance of these different types of Gers. And then also have more dialogue with communities, with the reference group, to see what do they like about it, what's working well, what is not working well. So hopefully that will give us some inspiration of things that communities can look into in terms of adopting that in their own lifestyle.
it's a really challenge, isn't it? Because on one side, I mean, I've seen other people trying to change the structure, materials, to make even very fundamental that you cannot move, etc.
Yeah.
With cement, more like house, but only surrounded.
Yeah.
But what you are talking about is to kind of renovate the Mongol gear as it is today with smaller changes.
Yeah.
To not too much changing the basic structure. That approach, I think, is more affordable in half of the Ulaanbaatar population who is living in this gear district. So just I'm wondering what will be the first result. Second, how you can then multiply those gears, and how affordable could be those changes.
Yeah, no, it's a very good point. It has to be affordable, and the other thing is people must want it. Yes. If they want that different type of floor or that adjustment to the door, because imposing it is likely not going to be successful.
That's what they have been doing for the last 10 years.
Yeah, and I don't believe with
spending billions of tuarigs and some even misusing, mismanaging, and some are even in prison.
So it must be consumer driven. And it means it's important to get potential consumers involved in further developing the designs, looking at the price points. Where do they feel, okay, if it is this amount, yes, then I would be willing to pay for it. So that's another part of research, the market research that needs to be done. Then you need to work with your local suppliers. Can they make adjustments to how they provide the basic materials? And can you get them enthusiastic? Because it's through, I think, the local firms that we can get enthusiasm, and when people want a product, then supply and demand come together for the right price point. So I think that is really important. At the same time, we should not forget that we also need to invest in better healthcare.
Yes.
Because we know, you've seen it probably yourself last winter, visiting hospitals, and you see so many children in the corridors, on stretchers, in the hospitals. And of course, that cannot happen over and over the coming winters. So on one hand, yes, we need to make that comprehensive approach, bottom-up approach on energy efficiency to reduce the pollution. On the other hand, we really need to also provide better healthcare, especially to people in the Gur districts where they do suffer.
Mostly also in terms of prevention.
It's prevention and recovery.
Recovery.
Yes.
In that sense, many things coming from the expenses of those cares and preventions, and basically it's about poverty issue. And there is the Sustainable Development Goal by 2030 that approved by Mongolian Parliament under the general UN purpose on that. How do you see that is moving forward? Are we on target? Are we behind? In particular, in terms of what is concerning to the children?
Yeah. At the moment, there is a big national survey is ongoing. That is being led by the National Statistics Office with support from UNICEF and UNFPA, whereby we have about 20 teams across the country asking questions to thousands of families to really understand exactly what you're asking. Where are we? Are we on track? And if we are not on track, how far are we off track? And what corrective measures need to be taken in the next couple of years in terms of policies and investments to get back on track with those indicators. So at this point in time, it's a little bit difficult to tell you we are on or off track.
When the result is coming?
We expect some of the first initial analysis completed in March the coming year. And then the final report should be available sometime in June. So that would be a really good moment to have that in-depth dialogue also with the policymakers. Look, this is the situation.
Not only in here, Ulaanbaatar, but all around the country.
It's across the country.
In IMAX, because you will have the statistics of your IMAX, where and how things go on, right?
Yeah, it will give a comprehensive overview of the situation across the country. And indeed, questions around health are very pertinent in that questionnaire.
It's a matter of not only decision makers. Of course, they are important because they will make decisions, but civic society, the people, to see the things, not through the political eyes, but through the
facts and figures.
It is nice, yes. It's good that we will try to know where we are exactly.
Yeah.
What has to do with UNICEF in Mongolia, where you will have, other than air pollution issues, to pay attention?
Now, there are indeed a couple of things which we already know for sure that more must be done. And let me just mention maybe 3 of them very briefly. The first one around nutrition. We now have a situation in the country whereby we have a significant number of children challenged by obesity. And we also have still a lot of number of children suffering from malnutrition. And then for both those groups, there are a lot of problems around micronutrients. So that's also has to do with urbanization. More and more children living in an urban environment, not getting a lot of exercise, more and more fast food, and that is of course not helping with your nutritional status. So that's one thing that we are working on, and we will do more on that. The second topic is around child protection and adolescent mental health. Since 2003, compare 2003 with 2017, the number of children between 10 and 14 that committed suicide have sharply increased. And that is something we are, of course, deeply concerned about. We do need to deeper analyze that, but I think it also is reflecting a bigger issue, a very big issue behind it, which is that
Certainly.
The mental health status of our children. And that connects, of course, also to child protection. How well are we looking after our children, both when they're very small and when they grow up, in terms of their mental health? Are they looking after? Are they not being beaten at home? Are they being bullied at school? Are they being sexually harassed on the internet? Because all of that is forming you as a person so much. And you will suffer a lot from that if not prevented to the extent possible. And when something has gone wrong, that those children do get the right kind of support that they would need so much.
Out of these 3, this mental health issue, the suicide issue, and in particular in terms of the social media and this network and the different kind of games, and we are facing first time completely new phenomena, new challenges where that technology is more separating parents and children. At times the particular parents don't understand what they use and how they use language, technique, everything. What would be your approach? What is the other countries' experiences? What will be new in your approach? First, UNICEF Mongolia approach towards the directions. Could you be a bit specific on that issue? What you have in mind?
I think that the first thing that we need to acknowledge is what you just said. Children spend a lot of time in a different world than where their parents are living. So there is a new world, it's the virtual world, and we don't know that world. They know it better than we do as a parent. And that makes it difficult. It also requires a new way of parenting, because you cannot watch over the shoulder of your child as you could do in the past, on the playground. So awareness amongst parents is something really important to work on, that they understand better this new world. Then, of course, children also need to be better informed about, indeed, those potential risks that they are running. Because they may think that they are chatting with, another 12-year-old, but it may be, a 42-year-old person sitting in a different country pretending to be a 12-year-old. And children may not always realize that. So we also need them to better understand the risks around the use of internet. And of course, meanwhile, we should also be really happy with all the opportunities that the internet is giving to children and parents as well. Then The second element that needs to be done more work on is working with internet providers, with the police, both domestically and internationally, that when inappropriate content is on the internet, that it's taken down or blocked ASAP. And that when the police does find indeed victims on the internet, that there is a system put in place to help those children. Because it will be very hard to recover from it. So you need to look at the whole spectrum in terms of awareness, prevention, and action and recovery.
Great. This is really something you were very clearly outlined. What is the approach to understand this virtual world, potential risk, and to work out together? And it is completely, in fact, brand new, kind of new directions, new fields for all Mongolians, whoever is concerned about the future of the country, actually, the children. So I'm glad that you have highlighted, and I will be looking forward. UNICEF Mongolia is addressing those issues to be a kind of avant-garde flagman of this fight, because this is the real concern. It's more concern than any other things when a young adult is taking their life like this, and which unfortunately recently happened also with another 22 years old. Anyway, Alex, this is something that we cannot cover within 30 minutes of our interview time, but I think it's a good start, and you have a great team, and you have challenges, but you have very clear vision in this regard, and I'm very glad to learn about that. And I think everybody will do our best based on what you have just now said, to make air better, children healthier, which will take a lot of time and money.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
За хүндэтгэгчдээ өнөөдөр манай Defacto нэвтрүүлгийн зочноор энэ нүүбийн хүүхдийн сангийн Монголд суурин төлөөлөгч ноён Alex Heikens оролцлоо. Их баярлалаа.